What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake and the Doc, Dr. Ethan Turner, back in the house because today we're talking about some worst case scenarios. The NFL draft is right around the corner. Ethan, we finally made it to the NFL draft, but there's a few speculative picks or some players that may fall certain places that, no bueno, I guess you could say. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, right? Some worst case scenarios.
Yes, there are plenty of worst case scenarios for this draft, and most of them are team specific.
Yeah, but it's a lot easier to keep it team specific because when you dive into certain individual players, I mean, it just gets a little bit, combobulated. Is that a word?
I
think it is.
Discombobulated?
Yeah. I've heard of that, but I don't know about. I don't. Whatever. Anyway, moving on. Let's start where everybody starts. Ethan, let's start with the quarterback position. And there are some worst case scenarios, some that are probably going to come to fruition here in the next coming days. But what is your first worst case scenario for the quarterback position?
Yeah, so we should preface that this is for fantasy, not for what the team needs or the NFL needs. This is just worst places that these guys could end up for fantasy. Yes. And the worst team that a quarterback could land on for fantasy, I think, is the Jets.
Way to go, Zach Wilson.
Yeah, poor Zach Wilson. Bless his heart. The problem with the Jets is currently they're looking at a wide receiver core of Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, and Jamison Crowder. Not exactly what you would call sexy. The problem is also that they've allowed opposing defenses to pressure their quarterback in less than 2.5 seconds on nearly a third of their dropbacks. So Sam Darnold never had a chance last year. Whoever the quarterback they drafted to, he's probably not going to have a chance either. That was actually the worst rate in the league last year. Hey, Jake, do you know who is projected to start at running back for the Jets?
Curtis Martin.
Tevin Coleman.
I was close.
With Ty Johnson backing him up.
Wow.
So that doesn't really excite me either. They're going to need a running back. They're going to need an offensive line. Their offensive line also only gained 1.1 yards before contact per rush last year. So even if they got a running back, if they don't fix the offensive line, it's just not going to happen for them. That was third worst in the league. So you're telling me that the quarterback they take it to is getting arguably the worst offensive line in the league with arguably the worst running game in the league, and you want that guy for fantasy? No, that is completely the worst place that you could end up. That guy is going to get killed this year, and I feel bad. I really do.
So what you're predicting here is that more than likely Zach Wilson is what it looks like as of right now. If he is the pick of the New York Jets, you've already taken Sharpie. You've already crossed him off of every potential draft sheet ever created. And you've already started pre-writing notes for his injury analysis breakdown that we do in season. Is that correct?
Well, that is true. And actually, the data that I've collected on quarterback injuries say that QB hits are the best predictor that we have of a quarterback getting hurt. And so if you don't have a good offensive line and you have a quarterback and you take him highly and you don't address the line with it, there's a good chance that guy's not going to make it through the year.
I mean, that's exactly why you're such a good employee, Ethan. I mean, you're pre-planning right now. You are looking into the future and you're trying to make sure that things are good to go by the time the season gets. Good job. Kudos to you.
We're actually recording the Zach Wilson injury video after this.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever.
Just locking in.
It is what it is. What about another team? There's got to be another team out there that's going to suck at the quarterback position, right?
Yeah, and this one's kind of out there. They're not really projected to take a quarterback necessarily, but I would say that one of the worst spots that you could land is actually the Lions. So they do have a top 10 pick, so there is a chance that they are priming themselves for a quarterback battle with Jared Goff. The Rams had to send 2 first-rounders for that guy just so that they would take him. The Lions are not set at quarterback by any stretch. The team is in a full-blown rebuild. And unlike the Jets, the Lions actually do have a little bit going for them. They have a decent offensive line. Frank the Tank Ragnow, probably one of the best interior offensive linemen in the league. And they actually don't have a bad left tackle with Taylor Decker either. So what's the problem? Have you seen their wide receivers, Jake?
Do they have
Bottom
any?
3 in the league, easily. Rashad Perriman, Tyrell Williams, Quintez Cephas, Khalif Raymond. Those are the only 4 guys that I knew the names of when I looked this up.
And this is what we do.
This is sad. Though we're not even talking about like fantasy wide receiver 3s. We're talking like fantasy wide receiver 6s. And those are who you're expected to like become fantasy relevant throwing the ball to. And sure, they have guys like TJ Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift, and we still like them mostly because they're the only pass catchers on the team right now.
Yep.
But I just don't see any way that a quarterback, regardless of if it's a rookie this year or Jared Goff, there's just no way they're working out with that wide receiver room. I'm totally fading the quarterback for the Lions this year.
I almost always fade everybody from the Lions because it's the Lions for the most part. The whole eating kneecap press conference, that didn't fire me up for the Lions.
It fired me up.
The offseason signing of Jamal Williams, that didn't fire me up because now you're going to take away from DeAndre Swift. I just, like you said, the wide receivers that you just listed there, Jared Goff at times struggled with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. And now we're going to think he's going to excel with these guys in Detroit? No. Probably not this year. Probably not ever. Ethan, it's just not happening. Worst case scenario is the quarterback goes to Detroit. Absolutely, I would pray for whoever would go there. What about the wide receiver position? Let's talk about some dudes that catch balls for a living. What's the worst case scenario for one of them?
All right, so this is not going to be popular for some people.
Oh boy!
I just want to say that I don't think the Bengals are the best landing spot. I don't want to be the guy that ruins the Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow reunion. But we got to be realistic here, Jake.
Ruin it.
Chase the Bengals over a starting O-lineman at 5 is going to be a bad time.
Yeah.
It's not going to work out well for anyone. The Bengals O-line, it used to be a meme. Like last season before the year started, we were making jokes. Mm-hmm. We were laughing. We were having a good time watching Joe Burrow just run around in practice with his offensive lineman not blocking a single soul on the field.
Uh-uh.
And guess what happened?
He died.
Joe Burrow's knee exploded, and then we're all left screaming at our TVs. How could this have happened? They need to get an offensive tackle. They need offensive linemen. And so what do we see a week before the draft? Oh, the Bengals should take Jamar Chase. Do you guys not get it? Like, if Joe Burrow is running for his life, Jamar Chase can't be a top 5 wide receiver. Joe Burrow can't be a top 10 dynasty quarterback. You have to have an offensive line first. And so that doesn't even take into account that 2 popular fantasy wide receivers are already on the team. If you like Tyler Boyd, you like T. Higgins, why would you want the team to draft Jamar Chase? That just makes no sense to me. Any other wide receiver in this draft, it doesn't make sense for them either, because then they're just competing with those guys. And I just don't see any reason that somebody that is worried about fantasy would want the Bengals to take a wide receiver in this draft.
Yeah.
Give him an offensive lineman. Let the players that they already have be successful before we start getting greedy with these wide receivers.
I get the people want the connection of Jamar Chase back with his college quarterback and Joe Burrow. I understand all that. And on the surface, that sounds mighty sexy. I mean, that sounds like, whew. But like you said, Joe Burrow can't complete a pass when he's laying on his back. You have the opportunity to take, in my opinion, the best offensive lineman in the draft with Penei Sewell. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I watched a lot of film. I think that's what they said. I probably butchered it, but oh well. That's where they need to go because that dude is an absolute beast on the offensive line. And even if he can buy Joe Burrow a half a second, that is something in the right direction. I mean, we talk about Joe Mixon at times, right? Well, now there's no Gio Bernard, but it doesn't matter because Joe Mixon's still not going to have any holes to run through either. Go with the offensive line early, even though the wide receiver is a little bit sexier. I will admit that. The thoughts of Chase and Burrow gets me a little hot and bothered on the inside. And my air conditioning's on right now, so it's got to be the combination. What about another team? Ethan, give me another team that we don't want to see a wide receiver go to.
Well, I've got a team for you, Jake.
Oh, you do?
First off, I got a question, though.
Okay.
Jake, do you know what Sam Darnold, Nick Mullins, and Nick Foles all have in common?
All of them have a name with 4 letters or less.
Technically, yes. But the real answer is that they threw more touchdown passes in 2020 than Cam Newton. The Patriots are easily one of those teams that people say, well, they need a wide receiver. There's no wide receivers there. They've got 2 tight ends. They need a wide receiver. But the problem is that you can't get a wide receiver in this draft and then expect Cam Newton to make them fantasy relevant. Cam had 8 touchdown passes last year. That's 34th in the league. 34th. There's only 32 teams in the league. 34th in the league in touchdown passes last year. That is not what you want when you're looking for elite fantasy wide receivers. So even if Cam Newton doubles his touchdown rate, he's still bottom half in the league. You got to have a quarterback to throw these guys the ball. That's the only way they're going to score fantasy points. And even though the Patriots are desperate for a wide receiver, if they don't upgrade a quarterback first, you can basically write off that any perceived value that you have for that wide receiver choice this year, because Cam Newton throwing them lame ducks is not going to fly.
Plus, they signed like 62 wide receivers in free agency. None of them really worth a crap. I mean, none of them are a number one. Julian Edelman has retired now. I mean, okay, cool. We got like a bunch of wide receiver threes. Like, they're just competing to not suck the worst at this point. A wide receiver going there, even though there's probably a need for a wide receiver, yeah, you hit it right there. If Cam Newton is the quarterback, at least for this year. Now, what if things go absolutely crazy in the draft and the Patriots move up and they draft Mac Jones? Do you change at all? Do you feel any differently?
I mean, then you're looking at Cam Newton and Mac Jones. I mean, you're hoping that the wide receiver that falls them in the second round is going to be all right. I don't know. I feel like they're probably going to give up any draft capital that you have. I'm just totally out. I'm totally out on the Patriots. That's why they're not the worst spot, but
they're up there.
I just can't with the Patriots this year with wide receivers. They want to run the football. Like, they've always wanted to run the football. Like, they don't have Tom Brady anymore. Like, we have to stop looking at this as a destination for fantasy points.
Yeah. To hell with those guys in wide receiver points in New England. Running backs, guys who can hit the hole, right? We're looking for those guys. But where do we not want these guys to go, Ethan? There's some studs in the draft. I like me some Najee Harris. I like me some Travis Etienne. I like me some Javonte Williams. But where do we not want them to go?
So the first one here is probably going to throw a few people off, but I'm going to say the Chargers. The Chargers offense is on the upswing. They did hit on Justin Herbert last year.
Yes.
And they may start getting a little greedy with this offense. Sometimes when you hit on the quarterback, you start thinking, hey, we're closer than what we maybe are. They could be using that early second rounder to find a complement to Austin Eckler, especially after Eckler missed most of last season with an injury. He's not the biggest back in the world. You could pair him with a guy like a Javonte Williams, a Najee Harris. If he were to fall, I don't think he will, but if he did, you could see, you can easily see the Chargers line of thinking of, all right, this worked really well when we had Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. Like, let's bring us another running back into this room. But the problem is that the Chargers have one of the worst rated offensive lines in football. Adding a running back doesn't just hurt my favorite bounce back candidate in Austin Eckler, but it puts both of those backs in a bind because they don't have an offensive line. If you don't have an offensive line, it doesn't matter how good you are as a running back. We've seen it over and over and over and over and over again. And so do we want a timeshare behind a bad offensive line, Jake? No, we don't want this, Jake. I don't want this.
No, I love me some Austin Eckler. Like you said, I mean, heck, we saw Kalen Ballage be effective at times last year. Definitely don't want an early running back. Nobody with any draft capital whatsoever. No. This is... I'd rather them add another wide receiver before they add a running back. No, I'd rather them have somebody more consistent opposite of Keenan Allen before I put anybody else in that backfield. But yeah, I got to agree. I love me some Austin Eckler, and they better not hurt no value for Austin Eckler here in 2021. Who's next? What's the next team?
Next one here is a team in a similar situation, picking early in the second round. They've got a running back that maybe, you might have heard of him, Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. They need a backup running back for the Panthers. Mike Davis is gone. The Panthers saw last year what happens when CMC goes down. Now, that was the first time we've ever seen CMC get hurt.
Right.
Maybe they're looking at the team. They're going, hey, maybe we shouldn't put all of our eggs into one guy staying healthy, especially when we're giving him 400 bajillion carries a year. Mm-hmm. Maybe we need to have a solid running back as a backup here. And do you really want one of these day 2 running backs? Even if it's a day 3 running back, do you really want a running back sitting behind Christian McCaffrey for fantasy? Do you want that, Jake? No, we don't want that.
No, but I can see where the Panthers want that.
The Panthers might want that. That's the problem, is that if the Panthers want this and they take, let's say, day 3, they look at a guy like Trey Sermon or Kenny Gainwell or Chubb Hubbard, any of these guys that we think, oh, this guy could maybe become something, and they slap him behind Christian McCaffrey, you've just completely wiped that dude's value for like the next 3 years.
Yep.
It would be a terrible landing spot for a running back. And I can see it happening because they don't have anyone behind Christian McCaffrey right now. And we saw what happened last year when that was the case. Mike Davis became like a fantasy league winner because CMC got hurt. And why I don't expect him to get hurt again, the Panthers might want a little, they might want a little insurance policy there. And so that would be just a horrible spot because the likelihood of Christian McCaffrey getting hurt again, even though, it happened this year, is pretty low. And we've seen what happens anytime a running back gets stuck behind a stud. It just doesn't work out well for them.
No. But the part that makes it most concerning is, like we just said, like, this is a legit possibility. Like, this isn't just like some crazy off the wall, there's no way they're selecting a running back, we're talking about it for no apparent reason. No, this is like a legit concern. Like, they could really do this on day 2 or day 3 in Carolina, and that could mess up a lot of things for a lot of people who are expecting a big bounce back year for Christian McCaffrey. How about we end it on a positive? Let's talk about tight ends, the football kind, for a second. There's not a whole lot of tight ends out there, Ethan.
No.
We need more prospects at the tight end position. So
yes.
You're telling me there's a worst case scenario for a tight end in the draft?
This one is easily the hardest one because there aren't really a whole lot of spots that, obviously if a tight end went to like Kansas City, that's going to totally tank him, or Las Vegas, that would tank them. But really the answer to this is anywhere that already has a top 10 dynasty tight end in place, we do not want them to go there. And the reason for that is simple. We don't have very many tight ends in the league that have any fantasy value. And so the last thing we need is 2 guys cannibalizing themselves. The position already lost potentially 2 tight end ones with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith both going to New England. And if one of these top tight ends in the class lands with, let's say, the Falcons or the Lions or the Eagles or Miami, we could see a similar situation where there's 2 tight ends. Neither one of them gets enough to really be like that elite option. And instead we've got like 2 like low end tight end ones, potentially maybe a tight end 1 and a tight end 2. And that does not help the position. This position is desperate. It is so desperate for talent. And so we don't want anything that involves a competition and any tight ends that we even like kind of sort of like, because we need all of them to hit to give us anything close to like a top 8 tight end.
I mean,
so you just stay away.
The ends are loose everywhere, if you know what I'm talking about. It's just there's not a whole lot of tightness in the league right now. There's no tightness. We need more tight ends, the football kind here in the NFL, because like you said, on draft day in fantasy football, if you don't get Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, George Kittle if he's healthy, maybe Mark Andrews, after that, it's like a gamble. It's like anyone can finish number 5 in the league for the most part. We need more solidified options in the NFL, and we just don't have them as of right now. So yes, Kyle Pitts going to Atlanta in number 4 doesn't really excite me as much as it would excite me if he were to go somewhere else.
No, why you got to hurt my boy Hayden Hurst like that?
I mean, what did he ever do to you?
What's up with that?
I mean, they didn't even utilize him last year. You're going to put Pitts in there and not even utilize him either?
You want Miami to get another tight end? Just kill Mike Gesicki?
Yeah.
Like,
that's wrong.
Why you got to be like this? You want Philadelphia to take Kyle Pitts?
Why? So we can kill Dallas Goedert?
This is terrible.
It's a horrible idea.
Why do you do this?
Don't do this, people. People, you got to stop. You got to
just stop.
Somebody's going to piss us off on draft night. Speaking of draft night, though, just a quick reminder, we are going to be live streaming the entire first round on Thursday evening, starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Myself, the Doc, Kyle, Chris Chouse, Kane. Let's see, you got Taylor, got the lone boner himself, Mac. He's going to be here. The entire team, Kyle included, is going to be here live stream that night, Thursday night. And there's gonna be people all over the screen, and we're gonna have you covered from every possible base when these draft picks are announced. Plus, I don't know if you can see over my shoulder. Can you? I've got a lot of things to give away, like a lot of things. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the little notification bell, because you're not going to want to miss it when we go live. We're going to have a lot of fun Thursday evening. Make sure you come and watch the draft with us. For Ethan and for myself, though, these are some worst case scenarios that could happen here coming up. But just a reminder also, it's fantasy football perspective, right? We're a fantasy football channel. Don't go getting all butthurt out there because we're talking about the Jets taking, Zach Wilson #2. Slow your roll. It's all good. We're going to be good. Don't worry. It's April. It's draft time. It's time to have some fun. So for myself and for the doc, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you later.